Today, we're prying open a very old, very dusty file cabinet. We're calling it the Shadow Archives. And inside, we're going to find those moments in history where the craziest, most unbelievable conspiracy theories turned out to be absolutely true.
You know the image, right? The person in a dark room with a corkboard connecting blurry photos with miles of red string. We usually just laugh and call them paranoid. But, history has its own dark rooms, its own locked doors. And every once in a while, someone finds the key. And what they find inside proves that the whispers were right all along.
So let's pull back the curtain. We're going to dive into 3 cases that sound like they were ripped from the pages of a spy novel, but they're not. They're pulled directly from our own government's declassified records.
Okay, first up, Project MKUltra. You gotta picture it. It's the 1950s, the Cold War is at its peak, and the CIA is terrified. They're convinced the communists are figuring out how to brainwash people, and they're afraid of a mind control gap. So what do? They launch a program to find the ultimate weapon, complete control over another person's mind.
And this wasn't just some theory they were kicking around. Oh no. They used hypnosis, they used sensory deprivation, and they used their brand new favorite toy, LSD. And they gave it to unwitting American citizens. They wanted to see if they could shatter a person's personality, wipe their memory clean, or maybe even create a real-life Manchurian candidate, a mind-controlled killer.
And get this, this wasn't some tiny back-alley operation. The CIA secretly funneled cash to 80 different institutions. We're talking prestigious universities, hospitals, prisons, all conducting these awful experiments. And who were their test subjects? Often people they thought no one would miss. Prisoners, people struggling with addiction, the terminally ill.
And yes, people died. Take Frank Olson. He was a scientist for the Army. At a work retreat, his own CIA colleagues slipped LSD into his drink without telling him. He had a complete psychotic break, and just 9 days later, he fell to his death from a hotel window on the 13th floor. For decades, his family was told it was a suicide, a lie. A lie to cover up the fact that their own government had essentially killed him.
But government secrets weren't just about spies and mind control. Sometimes the horror was much closer to home. Our next file shows a profound betrayal of trust. For years, there had been whispers in Black communities in the South that the government was using them as lab rats. Turns out, the reality of the Tuskegee study was even worse.
Just look at this timeline. It's staggering. In 1932, the study starts. They find hundreds of poor Black men who have syphilis, and they tell them they're being treated for bad blood. But they're not treating them at all. But here's the most evil part. In 1947, penicillin becomes the standard easy cure. This is it, the miracle drug. Do they give it to the men? No. For 25 more years, the U.S. Public Health Service actively kept the cure from them, just to sit back and watch and take notes as the disease ravaged their bodies. Okay, our third and final file. This one shows how a single lie can echo across the globe, how a secret can start a war. In 1964, the American public was told that North Vietnam had launched a totally unprovoked attack on U.S. Navy ships in the Gulf of Tonkin. That one event was all President Johnson needed to get the green light to massively escalate the war in Vietnam. There was just one tiny problem. The attack never actually happened.
I mean, this quote says it all. This is President Lyndon B. Johnson talking in private. Declassified documents and his own secret recordings show that what they called a second attack was, well, nothing. It was probably just bad weather messing with the radar. Johnson himself basically admitted it, saying our Navy could have been shooting at whales. But they let the country believe the lie, and that lie sent hundreds of thousands of soldiers into war.
So, if these things were so top secret, it begs the question, right? How on earth do we even know about any of them? And honestly, this might be the most important part of the entire story. Because truth doesn't just magically appear. It has to be dragged, kicking and screaming, into the light. And there's usually a pattern, kind of a roadmap for how the truth gets out. It almost always starts with a whistleblower, an insider, like Peter Buxton in the Tuskegee case, who sees something wrong and risks everything to speak up. Then, it takes a free press, investigative journalists who dig and verify and refuse to let the story die. And finally, if enough people make enough noise, you get public oversight, congressional hearings, new laws, real changes to stop it from happening again.
So what are we supposed to do with all this?
It's really easy to just become cynical, to believe every crazy theory out there. But that's not the lesson. The real takeaway isn't to live in a state of paranoia. It's actually something way more powerful.
See, there's a huge difference between blind paranoia and healthy skepticism. Paranoia believes everything without any proof. It loses touch with what's real. But healthy skepticism, that's the engine of a democracy. It's not about believing everything, it's about questioning everything. It's about demanding evidence, and it's about understanding a fundamental truth. Power always needs to be watched.
Because here's the bottom line. What these dark chapters teach us is that any powerful institution, if it's left to its own devices, will operate in secret. It's just what power does. And the only real antidote, the only thing that's ever worked, is transparency.
Which leaves us with one last really important question. If power naturally loves the shadows, whose job is it to hold the light? The lesson from the Shadow Archives seems pretty clear. It's the whistleblowers, it's the free press, and it's us. An engaged public that demands accountability. It has to be us.
Please like and subscribe.